Morning chefs. So today we're going to look at making scones. I'm going to do a cherry scone, but obviously you can do a different variation of whichever you want to do. So if you want it to be savoury or sweet, it's entirely up to you. So let's have a look. So our ingredients for today, you're going to need 500 grams of self-raising flour. You're going to need 1 teaspoon of baking powder. You're going to need 110 grams of soft butter, 50 grams of caster sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence, 290 mils of milk, 1 egg, and then obviously your filling. So like I said, I'm doing cherries, glazier cherries, so I'm going to put in about 130 grams of glazier cherries into this mix. Okay, so that's your ingredient. Okay then chef, so what we're going to do now, now we've got everything weighed out, we've got everything ready, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by incorporating my ingredients. So I'm going to start off with my flour. So my flour is going to go into the bowl. Okay, I'm going to put my flour into my mixing bowl. Into that I'm going to add my teaspoon of baking powder. Okay. Now the reason we add the baking powder as well as obviously using self-raising is so that we get a really good rise on our scones. Okay, we really want those to double in size as they cook. Okay, so it's really important that you put that in there and give that a good mix through. And it'll just help by adding an extra raising ingredient to that mix. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my flour and my baking powder in my bowl. Okay, I'm also going to add my sugar. Okay, so my sugar goes in and I'm going to mix that through as well. So really incorporate all that really well. Alright, then I'm going to add my butter. Okay, so it's not a lot of butter, but again, make sure you can try and get it to softened up a little bit rather than straight out of the fridge. It'll just help you. And what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of rub this in, and you're just going to rub that in. Again, remember, just using your fingertips. If you start using the whole of your palms, you're going to over melt that butter, and you're going to make it go too short. Okay, so it's really important that we're quite quick when we're doing that, and we'll just rub that through. It's quite a simple mix that we're going to keep all our dry ingredients together like this, and then we're going to add our egg, our milk, our vanilla essence mixed all together. Okay, so again, just keep working that. As you get to the bottom of the bowl, so you're lifting all that flour up as well. You don't want any left at the bottom. Okay, so that's more or less done now. What I'm going to do now, just make sure there's no last few lumps are all out the way. And that's more or less done now. Okay, so just give my hands a quick wash. Okay, so I'm just going to sit that to one side for a second, and I'm going to bring over my milk, my egg, and my vanilla essence. So again, nice large egg into that egg mix. Fork. You're going to want a nice amount of vanilla essence. This is really going to give it a good bit of flavour. Some recipes don't call for this, but I just think it adds that little bit extra richness to the dish again. So we're just going to go for a teaspoon of that. Okay, a little dribble more. That vanilla is really going to work in there. Okay, and we'll just slightly bring that together of the egg. Just work that, make sure that's all incorporated. Okay, there we go. So that's our egg and our milk mix. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start adding this to this mix. Okay, so just get that ready. We've got all that. I'm going to add my cherries. Get my cherries mixed into there. Okay. So again, just work those through so that they break up. Obviously quite sticky. If you're going to use sultanas or anything like that, that's fine. Just make sure they're all incorporated all the way through. There's a couple more in there, I think. Just bash them in. Okay, right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use a spoon to incorporate this together. You don't want to use your hands just yet. So we're just going to add some of this milk. Okay. We're not going to add it all. We're going to save a little bit for our glaze before they go into the oven. Okay, so we just work this round. It's important that we don't get this mix too wet. Okay, because if we get it too wet, what we'll end up with will be biscuits as it cooks. Okay, and we don't want that. We want them to be nice and fluffy. So again, just keep working that around. Get all that flour from the bottom. Make sure you're getting right underneath and turning that dough over. And you can see there it's come together quite quickly. See, it's formed a nice bit of a nice dough ball there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scrape that off. It will be a little bit sticky, that's fine. We're going to place that out onto a floured side anyway. Okay. So, like I said, I'm going to put a little bit of flour down on my side. I'll just sprinkle that around so I can work that out. Okay, so there's our mix. What we're going to do now is we're not going to use a rolling pin. When we come to use a rolling pin, we squash all that air out. Okay, and we don't want to do that. We want to leave it nice and light. And you can feel it's nice and light by just moving it around. So I'm just going to pat it into the shape I want. Again, a little bit of flour. Okay, and I'm just going to pat that down. And you want a good thickness on that, okay? Alright, you're looking at least about 1 inch. And I'm going to take a pastry cutter. Okay, I've got my pastry cutter. And I've also got a tray that I've already lined with greaseproof paper, and that's ready. My oven's already on. My oven's on 180 degrees, okay? So I've preheated that so it's ready to go. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to cut these out. Okay, and as you cut them, just put them onto your tray, giving them room so that they can spread out. Again, so as close as you can get to the last cut so that we're not getting too much wastage, okay? Pushing that straight out. Again, I'm not squashing that mix anymore. All I'm doing is just cutting them out. and just bring the rest of your bits back together, and again just try and pack them together rather than squash them too much. Okay, a little bit more flour, same thickness again. Okay, and just cut out some more. So I've got eight decent size, all the same size, and there's a little bit mixed left. I mean, you can pack that down and try and get one more, but to be honest, I don't think I'm going to get. Oh no, yeah, I will. So just pack that down into the ring, so you've got one more. So that's them done. Okay. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to leave them on the tray as they are. And I'm just going to let them rise, and they'll start to rise on their own with the activation of the baking powder in there with the wet ingredients. Just make sure you've got a bit of a space in between each one, okay? And I'm just going to leave those for 10 minutes now, alright? Before they go into the oven, but we're going to glaze them. Okay, so they've rested for a bit now. Now what we're going to do is just give them a light glaze over the top. Okay, don't press down on them too hard. Just a nice light egg glaze with a little bit of milk in there that's left from our mix. Okay, just go all the way over the tops. Just the tops, because it's the tops that you want that brown glaze on. The edges you don't need that on, okay, so don't go around the edges. Nice and light, there we go. Okay, so they're now going to go into the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes. And I'm going to turn the tray as they're cooking as well. They're going to go in for about 8 to 10 minutes, and I'm going to turn the tray after halfway. So in they go. Nice warm oven, 100. Okay, so they're ready to come out of the oven now. So we're just going to lift them out of the oven, and we're going to pop them straight onto a cooling rack so that they cool down without sweating on the base. I've got one. Couple that are just over-approved there for some reason, but that's good. Okay, so there we go. That's our cherry scones that we've done today. Okay, so again, you can make any variation of those you want, chefs. Sultanas, raisins, whatever you want to put into those. Okay, that's down to your personal preference. Again, you can do savoury ones and do cheese and some chives in there if you wanted to. Okay, entirely up to you, but that's what you're looking to do today. Okay.